and it hasn't made the headlines here, I didn't think. There's a class action being filed against World Rugby.
Yes, it did make the headlines here.
It did make the headlines. So
yeah,
it's been
the Carl
championed
Heyman
by
article.
Carl Heyman,
he's part of it.
Michael Littman and Stephen Thompson, I believe, is sort of the more key guy.
They're the more well-known guys. There was an article that came out about Carl Heyman maybe early last week, about the fact that he's got dementia and he's only in his 40s. What do you make of it all?
It's pretty sad, man. Like, I don't like seeing. I mean, we're both fight fans as well, and like that earlier generation, there's just the odd guy who's just not the same. I haven't seen Carl Heyman, much since he sort of retired, but from what I was reading, he's had some problems with sort of almost like manic, like behavior, depression, like that sort of stuff, pain. I don't know whether suing World Rugby is the right answer. Now he's
one of the greats.
Now he's got all these problems, and that's fucking awful. So for me, that was like, in some ways, made me feel better about retiring younger. Not like me and Carl were similar, and not having as many head knocks as some guys have. But I don't think that's the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? I had a couple of concussions last year, and one of them really fucked me, like really, really rattled me. I was driving down the M5 one day, and there was two trucks going past me, so I was in the middle lane.
Yeah,
and I felt like they were going backwards. So I was like really spinning out. It took me a solid sort of 6 to 8 weeks to get back. My dad had a stroke during his career from a head knock, even though he didn't know it at the time. My brother Locks had a lot of concussions, and anyone that's seen his Instagram would see the effects of, what a lot of head knocks can do to a person.
Yeah, both physically and mentally.
Like literally an insane person, but highly entertaining. So maybe not a good example, but
Chubby, I had similar stuff. Like I never really gave much thought, and particularly coming out of sort of schoolboys and that stuff. I was a grass cutter. I loved Tatafu, so I would be grass cutting people nonstop. And then in Melbourne, I and you occasionally get a knockout, and it's okay. You leave, you're shitty that day. You're right. In Melbourne, I had sort of 2 on the run. And after the second one, I was a fucking zombie. I was useless, and like I didn't know what was going on. Like I would just sort of turn up to training, sort of just sit there, look at walls and stuff, and the staff were like, "Mate, you're actually not well here. Like you're going to have to do a really long return to play." And that was sort of the first time where I went, "Fuck, that wasn't fun." I had to change how I tackle.
I agree. I agree. We've all seen guys who have probably played on when they shouldn't have. And particularly as someone who's on the other side of the fence now, I see young blokes who have had a head knock, who are rushing to get back, and who may, because it's hard. Like the concussion test is, most of our guys would fucking fail the concussion test, even if they didn't have any problems. So, I certainly would. So they're rushing back to play, and I'd always say to the guys, just take a little bit of extra time with your head. It's too important. It's too important, and I'd rather have you there at the end of the season than have you there now. I guess, but I never used to think like that. And then particularly my last year, I started off the year quite well. And then after the concussion, I ended up in 3rd grade, and then I had another concussion. I'm going, what are you doing?
Rugby you're paid for because it's a skill, but it's also risky. It's like fucking diving for abalone or fucking coal mining. You get paid more because not everyone wants to jam each other's heads together. So I think that's factored into the way people are paid and the way that the market is and the way that the sport exists, unfortunately. And I don't think I'm in favour of that.